a few days ago, week before last, one Indian gentleman. He's claiming that he has given en main propre, s'il vous plaît, 1 million rupees to the Vice Prime Minister. That's an allegation. I don't know if ICAC has bothered to call an inquiry and conduct an inquiry and do something about it. Probably, knowing ICAC, he hasn't done anything. Again last week, this time, Madam Speaker, 4 board directors of the Financial Services Commission, 4. That is half the board of the Financial Services Commission, which are 8. Included in those 4, the Solicitor General, the highest legal officer of this country. They resigned from the Financial Services Commission. And I know why they resigned, Madam Speaker. They resigned because there was a board resolution which was being forced upon the FSC to reinstate fully Mr. Sobrino, the famous Mr. Sobrino, fully in his activities. All of these 4 people resigned. One a few days before, then on Sunday, and then the Monday following that board resolution. And this same Mr. Sobrino, and we can prove it, has been severely blamed by this Kroll report commissioned by the FHC itself, and Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, which says clearly that this gentleman has a reputation of an international crook, but we'll have time to deal with that over the next few coming days. Madam Speaker, not finished, and probably this one can be said to be even worse. Not finished, Madam Speaker. The government, is it a 2-headed monster, 4-headed monster? Nobody is quite clear. But again, the Vice Prime Minister issues on his letterhead of the Ministry of Housing, issues a communiqué, cutting off, s'il vous plaît, severing relations with the state of Qatar. This is not the Minister of Foreign Affairs, he's absent again, the Minister, issuing the communiqué. This is the Minister of Housing and Lands that issues the communiqué. And the next day, Ministry of Foreign Affairs refutes this communiqué. Now, obviously, this has made us a laughingstock of the international world. But it's even more serious than that. Because we have hundreds of people, hundreds of Mauritians who are working in Qatar, be it as professionals in the economy or in Qatar Airways. Hundreds of people. And these people, Madam Speaker, their situation has now been put in jeopardy. It is not clear what will happen to them. I know that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has contacted a few people, is trying desperately to redress the situation and to pass a message to the Qatar government that this communiqué was not an official one from the VPM, that it was a foolish thing to do, that it was even a stupid thing to do, and that any fight between Saudi Arabia and Qatar has absolutely nothing to do with Mauritius, even though the Vice Prime Minister, it seems, attended a military exercise in Saudi Arabia some time ago. I don't remember the name, I think it was Tornado or something. He thought it was good for him to attend the military exercise, or he tried to attend at least. I think it was stopped, I don't remember. But there you go, Madam Speaker. And that has put in jeopardy our international relationship, has made us a laughingstock of the world, and worst of all, has jeopardized the safety and the situation of hundreds of Mauritians working in Qatar. But la série noire continue. The arbitral award to Betamax of some 5 billion rupees, Madam Speaker. It's an amount that is equal to, if you add Ministry of Housing, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Industry, all these budgets combined, you will come to the amount that we now owe to Betamax. And then I see Honorable Senator Ambu is very busy talking all the time, now saying that we will not pay, which is bad enough because that throws our whole international reputation down the drain. But he says also that he will appeal. I understand, I'm not a lawyer, but I understand that the chances of success of appeal are very, very slim. Nil, says my learned friend. Nil. But maybe what the population doesn't realize, that interest runs on these 5 billion rupees that we owe, that the government owes. It's very well to go and make these spurious appeals everywhere. But every day, do you know how much interest accrues, how much interest is due on 5 billion rupees at 3%? This is the rate that they are charging, a bit more than the other loan. Do you know how much it comes to, Madam Speaker? It comes to more than 410,000 rupees per day interest. And it is not Honorable Ratna that will correct my calculation. I hope it not. Okay. Now, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker. No, it's my fault, I accept. Madam Speaker, the taxpayer is being asked to foot a bill of about 5 billion rupees to Betamax, and at the same time, if, and as everybody says, this appeal that is going to be made does not succeed, we have to add to this 5 billion rupees 410,000 rupees a day interest that is running. So I would make my own appeal to government that do not make any stupid moves. Make sure this time that things are done well, and if there's a need to negotiate with Betamax, do so in the public interest. Don't be stupid, and once again, and put the taxpayer in even worse situation that we are at the moment, unless, of course, we can change the law to make the people responsible pay for it directly. I would be very happy, Madam Speaker, and you can, I will not mention names, but I would be very happy that if that were to happen. So, Madam Speaker, we finished with Betamax, and now we hear that the government has taken a loan, massive loan, of 18 billion rupees in US dollars. This massive loan, I'll come to it in a moment, Madam Speaker, will increase our external debt by some 50%. And I'll come to that. And on this chapter, all I can say is that no details have been given whatsoever in the budget. Nothing, but I'll come to that in a moment. But we continue, Madam Speaker. I don't want to be too long. This time, apparently, Honorable Sisankar, his advisor has a violent past. But, Madam Speaker, I always knew that advisors were vetted before being appointed. You take a recidivist who has already been condemned for violence, and you take him as your advisor, and you're surprised that he does it again? That is terrible, Madam Speaker. Perhaps you can correct it at some point in time, because this is what I read in the papers. I don't know him personally. So, Madam Speaker, in this situation, what was desperately needed in this situation, Madam Speaker, and I speak honestly, est un exercice de vérité. Dire à la population exactement quelle est la situation, de la croissance, de ce qui a été fait dans les années précédentes, de la dette, exactement, and try and get everybody to agree to une feuille de route pour le pays. Et c'est pour cela, Madame Speaker, parce que justement, le budget n'est plus un exercice de vérité, que nous avons vu la galerie publique absolument, enfin, la moitié de la galerie publique vide, et qu'il y a eu un désintéressement général, il y a qu'à lire la presse pour voir. Tout le monde est d'accord qu'il y a eu un désintéressement général dans ce budget-là, parce que le budget, en fin de compte, c'est un budget menti-menti. Il n'est pas un budget vrai, c'est un budget menti-menti. Quels sont les oubliés du budget? Les sujets trop encombrants qui méritent aucune mention dans le budget parce qu'ils interpellent la population. On a parlé de Betamax, on a parlé de BAI, mais aussi, Madame Speaker, aucune mention des investissements massifs dans les infrastructures à Agalega. On parle d'un pont qui va être rénové, patati patata, mais un développement massif à Agalega, une piste, un runway de 3 km de long, et même longueur que Plaisance. Plaisance a une piste de 3,2 km qui prend des A380, Madame la Présidente. Mais là, nous avons une piste de la même longueur à Agalega. Pas de détails, donc, de ça. Et j'ai dit tout à l'heure, pas de détails des 18 milliards des emprunts, l'utilisation, les redeemable preference shares, pourquoi ça n'a pas été inclus dans la dette publique. Et comme PwC a bien dit, si on a pris de l'argent et si on doit cet argent-là, mais c'est une dette by whatever name called. Madame Speaker, aucun détail non plus du salaire minimum, qui pourtant a été promis pour la fin de l'année, rien dans le budget, rien sur le Brexit non plus, rien, Madame Speaker, sur le vieillissement de la population. And now I'll come to my friend, honorable friend, who's always on the papers every day. Madam Speaker, last year, budget, paragraph 413, mentions that aging of the population. And hear this, Madam Speaker, this is why people don't believe the budget anymore. It says, aging of the population is a challenge that we cannot ignore. A challenge that we cannot ignore, and 1 year later, is exactly that it has been ignored in the budget. It even goes to say, Madam Speaker, that we have, at the moment, I think it is 6 salaried employees working to pay 1 pensioner. In 2033, it will be 3 salaried employees working to pay for 1 pensioner. So the situation is dramatic situation. We are moving from a population aged 60 or over, percentage 14% of the population at the moment, to 2033, 25%. So the situation is dramatic on public finances, on the economy, on whatever you like. And I know that Honorable Senator Ambu has felt this too hot a potato to handle. Since February, the high-powered committee is no longer meeting. Since he took over, the high-powered committee has run away, no longer meeting, Madam Speaker. Press conferences every day. Et vieillissement de la population, zéro get là-dedans. There you go, Madam Speaker. And he has run away. He doesn't have the courage to deal with a dramatic situation regarding aging of the population. But there's more, Madam Speaker. What about financial services? Dramatic situation. Probably the one industry, I'll come to that a little bit later, but one industry that faces the most challenges. The end of the double taxation agreement with India. The challenges, the menace de l'Union européenne, that they'll put us on a blacklist by the end of this year if we do not change drastically, our taxation of the offshore, basically the deemed foreign tax credit. And, of course, the signing of the multilateral instrument, which is an OCDE initiative, which I understand will be signed in a few days. Now, these 3 things, Madam Speaker, dramatically change the offshore sector. Some people are saying that 80% of the holding companies in Mauritius or global business sector will no longer be viable if these things happen, and nothing is done to change that. So that is how dramatic it is, and all that is being promised is a blueprint. I think, Madam Speaker, that many of these things have been omitted, hidden in the budget, because, to be frank, we have a part-time Minister of Finance. That is the situation. We have a part-time Minister of Finance. I'm not blaming. I'm just saying we have a part-time Minister of Finance. We closed the Parliament 4 weeks or so to enable the budget to be concocted, but obviously not enough time to deal with financial services, not enough time to deal with Brexit, all the issues that I've raised, vieillissement de la population, etc., that haven't been dealt with. And that is the sad situation of this country today. We don't have a full-time Minister of Finance. We have a part-time Minister of Finance. at the same time Minister of Rodriguez, Minister of Defense, Minister of NDU, Prime Minister, etc., etc., etc. Long, long list of responsibilities. Madam Speaker, we have been creating false hope since the election. False hope of an economic miracle, when in fact the situation has got worse since December 2014 elections. The only thing that got better is tourism. Apart from that, everything else, and it can be proven, is worse. Let me tell you what my good friend, Honorable Vishnu Lakshmi Raidu, said. And he was full of pep when he made his speech. He was saying, he predicted, Madam Speaker, that we would have a whopping 5.3% growth in 15-16. First year we were in power. 5.7% this year. And in fact, he went on to describe what we had achieved. I was Minister of Finance in 2014, most of it, half of it. The growth in 2014, Madam Speaker, was 3.6%. Check your figures. He described that as anemic. I was a bit surprised myself. I was sitting on that side. I said, oh, that's a bit rude of him. But still, he described the growth as anemic. In fact, Madam Speaker, when he took over in 2015, the anemic growth, so-called, of 3.6% fell to 3.3% in 2015 and 3.2% in 2016. And I see that the Minister of Finance has estimated the growth for this finishing financial year at 3.9%. Why? Oh, why has the World Bank, Madam Speaker, s'il vous plaît, une institution respectée, why has the World Bank estimated our growth for this year to be 3.4%? And last year for 3.5%. Why? Has to be explained, Madam Speaker. We know that the debt figures ont été trafiqués. We know that. And in more ways than one. But, Madam Speaker, would you believe the World Bank? Or would you believe in these circumstances the Ministry of Finance? I know, Madam Speaker, that I would much more easily believe the World Bank. Now, growth is not just a statistic, as you know, Madam Speaker. Growth is what? Because it can be something we don't understand, just a figure. Growth is increasing prosperity for the whole nation, higher living standards, better public services, better schools, better hospitals, and better police service, better education, and a better future for all. So, Madam Speaker, growth hasn't happened since the last election. And I see now, in this budget speech, we are told that by 2023, in 6 years' time, we will be having enough growth to move from, I think, 9,700 or so gross national income to 13,600. And to do that, if you calculate it, Honorable Ratna can give me a hand here. If you calculate it, Madam Speaker, it's about 5% a year. And nowhere in this budget is there anything that will give you growth of even the 4% that is being promised. But we can go, I won't go too much in figures, Madam Speaker, but I'll say just a little bit more. Public debt, 61% in 2014. Vishnu Lakshmi Raidu, Honorable Lakshmi Raidu, I said it was alarming. Alarming for him, alarming. Now, Madam Speaker, it's 66%. I think Mr. Honorable Lakshmi must have fallen unconscious because he's not here. If it was alarming at 61%, what can it be at 66%? And even then, we haven't calculated much of the debt that is coming. Perhaps, Madam Speaker, sadder still, is the situation on the employment side. On the employment side, because here we are talking directly of people. Honorable Mr. Manto had promised 100,000 jobs created, but 25,000 a year, I think, when he did his economic vision 2030. Honorable Pravin Jagannath last year promised immediate 21,400, and they were meant to be youth, apparently. All this is false. Nothing happened. In 2016, and we need to correct this bad statement, this incorrect statement that's been made about unemployment. What you need to look at, madam, is employment, not unemployment, and I will explain why. As far as employment is concerned, Statistics Mauritius, which is still, I believe, fairly independent, has calculated that only 300 jobs, not 100,000, not 21,000, not 10,000, not 1,000, only 300 jobs, Madam Speaker, have been created in 2016. And this is why we mustn't fool the population about unemployment figures, because unemployment figures, as calculated by Statistics Mauritius, is a very approximate figure. It can be manipulated. If you want to manipulate it, you can manipulate it. Because to be considered unemployment, you must be considered to be free, not working, but also to be actively looking for a job. And that other one is very subjective, whether you are actively looking for a job or not. And this is what brings down the unemployment rate when you take out all these people who are supposed not to be actively. And when you take out, I think to date 17,000 people have been recruited under the youth employment program, which I started myself. About 4,000 people have been recruited under the graduate in the skills development program. So when you take all these people out, when you take people who have been recruited in the public service, the distressing fact, Madam Speaker, when you take out youth employment program, the skills development program, recruitment in this service, you will find that the private sector employment has dangerously regressed, dangerously reduced the private sector employment. And we all know that the private sector that pays the taxes for us to be here today, for civil servants to be employed, for wealth to be created. And it is therefore dangerous for our country that this is happening in the way that it's happening. So, we are sitting on a time bomb as regards unemployment. Madame Speaker, I think that l'indifférence vis-à-vis de ce budget-là is a population being fed up with being misled. Too many, and I can take the whole day. I will not, obviously. Effet d'annonce sur effet d'annonce. Yeah, I was Minister of the Port. I was sitting, an honorable listener I do announced that the port would extend for 8 kilometers. I had nothing in the files to show this. They would go for 8 kilometers, from Bejutombo to Les Salines or something. I was sitting there, I was listening, huh? Good. Apparently, when he came, he announced 3 projects to be held in the port. Only one existed, in fact. A Chinese project, fishing port, which never went ahead because it was too expensive. A French project by Bolloré was only in his dreams. It never existed either on paper or anywhere. And then there was an Indian project, I never heard of it either. So you have a Minister of Finance announcing 3 projects, an 8-kilometer port, which never existed except in his dreams, daylight dreaming, I think. Don't know what he does at night. But this is what, and this is a sort of effet d'annonce which have turned off the population from this budgetary exercise. But this year also, let's look at this year. And we have been fooling the population again this year, Madam Speaker. Swimming pool in Kepip, my foot swimming pool in Kepip. My foot. Paying now swimming pool in Kepip. Well, I have many people have actually banged on the table. Because if you look at the figures, yes, you fooled them, you fooled me too. We have been fooled. I accept we have been stupid enough to be fooled, Madam Speaker. And that is true, I think, for the whole population. So I don't blame anyone. I don't blame anyone. Now, if you look at, and Honorable Toussaint, Minister of Youth and Sports, also banged the table, not understanding that swimming pool zero, because the 75 million rupees provided for, and we know as Minister of Finance, you have a provision It's only one column, sir. When you look at it, the details, tell me, when is the swimming pool going to be constructed? Not this year, because there is only 1 million rupee for feasibility study. Not next year, there is 0 rupee. Not the year after, 0 rupee. That is the swimming pool, Madam Speaker. That is what I see. We'll see. So, no swimming pool in Kepip, no town hall in Kepip. At least that is what is in. So, in fact, the proper wording for the budget speech is not, I am announcing provision for a swimming pool in Kepip, but I am announcing a 1 million rupee provision for a feasibility study for a swimming pool in Kepip, which construction may start in 4 years. That is what the budget speech should have stated. Obviously, it would not have had its effet d'annonce, so we didn't state it. They didn't state it like that, Madam Speaker. So no in fact, this is the same for all the swimming pools. This is the same also for the Goodlands SME market. The Goodlands SME market, and the poor SMEs are waiting for the tables. You know, when are we going to have these tables? Because that's one of the things that we have now, tables for them to be able to sell their products. And no SME market going to come up, no market fair in Goodlands and anywhere else is going to come up in the next 4 years. This is what is in the budget details. So again, you have all these SMEs waiting, getting their goods ready, you know, petit gâteau piment and all that, to try and sell at SME fair, and they have to wait the 4 years. And the same for everything, you know, even the town hall in Kepip, all this is just effet d'annonce. Nothing actually to come up. Same thing for the area health centers, etc. Madam Speaker, I've seen 38 projects in Appendix 3 of the budget. 38 projects which have been announced, which will not come up within 4 years' time. And this is, and I can take the, and perhaps people may say I'm exaggerating, but take last year's budget speech. What happened to the refinery in Albion? Get là-dedans, zéro. What happened to the gold refinery? Zero. What happened to the pharmaceutical village? Zero. What happened to the bicycles we were all going to ride? They took us for a ride, Madam Speaker. They took us for a ride. No bicycle, no motorcycle, nothing. All these were announced last year. Page 8 of the budget last year, Madam Speaker. Nothing was created. And this is why nobody believes. Anyway, I won't go too much on that. I just regret one thing, that when we've been given the figures, now for the debt, we are given gross debt and net debt. But if you had some regard for the public and for us parliamentarians, you would have given the comparatives under the old system so that we could understand what is the debt according to IMF, what is the debt according to the old Mauritius definition, which is still the same Mauritius definition, and what is the debt now. Instead, all the debt figures have been changed, and we are all lost. We don't understand, and that is not good. Instead of saying, Madam Speaker, this is the vérité, that we cannot meet the 50% reduction in the debt Mauritius definition by 2018, we cannot do that, that's obvious. Therefore, we are going to change the law to have it not 2018, maybe 2020, whatever. No, it is a definition itself that is changed. Et ça, Madam Speaker, c'est pas honnête. We have to be honest with the population. You have to tell them the truth, and then admit if there's a reason for it, give the reason. Madam Speaker, I'll come to some of the sectoral issues. One thing which I'm very concerned with, poverty alleviation. Perhaps where the government has really failed. Because that's probably the most important area that government should address. What are we here for? We're not here to make the Alvaros of this world buy 131 villas. That's not our job. Our job is to get people, the poor, in a better situation. Get even a small house to the poor. That is our real job, real objective, Madam Speaker. And paragraph 300 of last year's speech, it says this, very pompous. there will be no person living in conditions of absolute poverty in Mauritius. This is what the Minister of Finance said last year, paragraph 300. You agree it was a very naive statement that he made, because if you look around you, no one would be stupid enough to say that there are no persons living in poverty. In fact, probably there are more persons living in conditions of poverty than previously. And let us look at that. Let us look at why. We are told that 8,000 families have received some sort of support under what is called the subsistence allowance scheme, which was put last year. 8,000 families. These 8,000 families, are they now well off? Are they no longer poor? Have each of us gone into our constituency and we've seen someone last year was really poor, this year is doing, oh God, I've received the subsistence, I'm so well off? It's not the case. And we have to be frank about that. It's not the case. And let's see why it is not the case. Because, Madam Speaker, ending poverty is much more than just giving money, and even giving a little bit of money. So there are many things that worry me about this measure. Firstly, the accompanying measures that were to go with this social contract. Because the people were not just given money, or not just being given money every week, every month. On average, I think 3,000 rupees. They were supposed to follow a program that within a finite amount of time would get them out of poverty. This is what is called a conditional transfer. You give money, quite a bit of money, in return you want a person to change the way that he lives, to improve his chances of coming out of poverty. And that is, Madam Speaker, what was supposed to happen. But to date, my information is that no accompanying measure had been proposed to these poor people. No accompanying measure. We have gone, 6 or 7 months payment. They were supposed to be accompanied, and there were supposed to be conditions attached to the social contract. Let me take an example. You may be a man of maçon. You are poor. You need to become a maçon to be able to earn decently and feed your family. But that trading must be given in the meantime. You may be not able to read or write. You are supposed to be made to read or write within the period that this social contract is happening. You may be an alcoholic, and you are supposed to be weaned off alcohol, weaned off drugs. This is what the social contract is all about. But none of this has happened, because the NEF has gone worse than before. Worse than before. None of this has happened. No accompanying measures. And, Madam Speaker, I think none of these poor know that they are, in fact, sitting on a time bomb. They don't know that. They don't know that this social contract is not forever. Who has said that it is finite in time? Who has said that it will stop at some point in time? Because it will stop. It has a life of 1 year, 12 months, to be renewed for a maximum of another 12 months. So 2 years maximum. That's all. So in these 2 years, you don't get these people off being able to get out of poverty on their own feet. Within these 2 years, if you don't do all these accompanying measures, then it's finished, this program. I'm going to table, Madam Speaker. I will take the name of the person off, just so that it's only fair. I'll table a copy of the social contract, and I'll read it. Modalities of payment of allowance. The allowance will be payable for initial period of 12 months to the beneficiary. If found compliant after assessment, if found compliant, so you must have done some things pour mériter cet argent, the allowance will continue to be paid to the beneficiary for a maximum period of another 12 months. This is a subsistence allowance. I don't know how many members of the House realize that this subsistence allowance is in very short period of time, and that after that it will stop. And if during that period of time we don't get these poor people, these 8,000 families, to stand on their own feet, they'll be the same situation as before. Same back before. All this money will stop. You have a social revolution. I'll come to elections in a moment. But you have a social revolution. Please don't wait till this comes to 2 years. I wouldn't advise it. Now, another thing, Madam Speaker. Ending poverty is not just giving money. What about housing? I've been going around the country looking at squatters. Terrible situation. All these things about ending squatting in Mauritius, moving the squatters, they are moving them to worse places than they were. Many of them have refused to move. NEF has not constructed a single house since the election. There was a contract last time with the PNQ, 141. And I'm not saying this because of the minister. I'm saying because I'm concerned about the poor. 141 was supposed to be constructed. Only 60 will in fact be constructed. That'll be in 2.5 years after the election. National Housing, NHDC, has not delivered one single house constructed since the election. All the houses that have been delivered were from the previous government. And we were meant, unless I've been fooled, I think, because we were meant to construct 2,000 houses a year under this government. 2,000 one year, 2,000 the other, and this time it's half a year. That should have come to 5,000 rupees, EPA rupees, 5,000 houses. Mr. Ratna will agree. So here we are. 5,000 houses, and we have not a single house delivered, and only 300 houses under construction. That is a disaster that the poor are facing, Madam Speaker. On one side, a time bomb of maximum 24 months. Second, not a single housing. Many of the places that they have been sent to, would you believe? I'm sure you would not believe. I'll take you myself, Madam Speaker, because you would not believe me. Many of the houses that Honorable Sudan, of the places that Honorable Sudan are sending these squatters, have no water, back in Pointe South, no electricity, and no roads. No water, no electricity, and no roads. And we are taking care of Sobrino and Royal Park, and nobody's taking care of this, Madam Speaker. Can you imagine? Can you imagine moving squatters to a place worse than they were before, with no amenities at all? But, of course, press conference, camera, you're giving letters to all these people. Now, this is the situation for poverty alleviation. And, of course, this poverty alleviation, the problem of squatters, will not get solved until we solve the problem in Rodrigues. It should not be solved by itself, because many of the squatters are in fact people who have fled from Rodrigues, because there, after 50 years of independence, there's still not an economy worth speaking of, only tourism, with a subsidy, I think, of at least 100 million a month from the national budget, so that Mauritians can go there at a cheap rate, and that's it. No water, nothing to support an economy. It's okay, except when you think of the people that have to flee from Rodrigues to come here. And where do they live, these people? Where do they live? They live in squatters' housing. No water, no electricity, under leaking roof and toll. That is the situation. And what now with the negative income tax? I think it's positive. I think it's positive because it will encourage formal employment. It will reward effort. When you work, you get something. I think that is positive. Obviously, it will be unfair to the self-employed because they will have no fiche de paye. All these hawkers and porters and all. I don't know what you're going to do with them, but it will be unfair on them. That is something that has to be dealt with. I must also, a word of warning, that other people have gone along this path. In the UK, there have been huge problems in implementing what they call there, I think they call it the income tax credit. There. Huge problems in implementing that. And so we need to be wary of that. It's not as easy as you think to do so. But again, Madam, I think the poor need to realize that they're not going to get a check tomorrow. This is not for tomorrow. The first check under the negative income tax will be paid in August 2018. In August 2018, so not even in this budget, but the first check will come out for the people under negative income tax. And, Madam Speaker, really, this is one little positive thing that the government has done. You would have thought that they would have found a way to apply it immediately, not give 13 months' notice before this thing is applied. So that is not serious, Madam Speaker. And again, what is not serious is the exaggeration of its applicability. Minister of Finance said 150,000 people will be entitled to this. Not true. Not true, of course, because I know where you got the figures from. It's the figures published by Statistics Mauritius showing how many people earn a basic wage of less than 10,000. A basic wage. But we all know, or we ought to know, that especially when you're on the lower salary scale, basic wage is not the whole wage that you're getting. Everyone in the export processing zone, whatever it's called now, export sector, manufacturing sector, everyone is on basic wage, plus attendance bonus, plus productivity bonus, patati patata, all. So in fact, your basic wage is only a small portion of your actual wage. So it is calculated maybe half. It will have half the impact that it has been made out to have. And also, Madam Speaker, without the minimum wage, I think it is a couteau à double tranchant, and I'll say why. Because what we want is give the money to the poor and not subsidize the employer. That is not what we want to do. Let's take the youth employment program. I forget the exact figures. But I think youth employment program, the employer pays 6,000 rupees and the government pays another 6,000 rupees. So the employee gets 12,000 rupees. Everybody is happy because this is for 1 year. We are subsidizing the employer by 6,000 rupees. Now this 1,000 rupees maximum, because it can be as little as 200 rupees, we don't want that to be subsidizing the employer. I'll give you an idea, Madam Speaker, what I mean. Instead of paying someone 6,000 rupees, I say, you want 6,000 rupees, what I'll do is I'll give you 5,200 rupees per month, 800 rupees, well, you get that from Mr. Jagannath every 6 months. Honorable Judge. So we are subsidizing whom here? We are subsidizing the employer, not the employee. The employee still gets the 6,000 rupees. And you know how Mauritians are. Everybody, very clever people here. They will find a way to make this work somehow in their interest, the employers. So, Madam Speaker, this is why I disagree with many people who say that the minimum wage will not go together with this. I think not. Because if you have a minimum wage, then at least you know that the employer will not be able to go beyond a certain figure. You will not be able to go beyond and play this game of paying less on the understanding that the government will make up the difference. And let's hope we get the minimum wage quickly. I hope the minimum wage, as is being suggested here, is not going to be 4,000 rupees. Because if you read between the lines of the the negative income tax, you tend to think that the minimum wage will be 4,000 rupees. But if that is done, Madam Speaker, that will be a big outcry, which I think even the government will not be able to sustain. Madam Speaker, what about still on poverty alleviation? What about the Marshall Plan? Given to government in December 2015. Final draft form as far as I'm aware. December 2015, 2.5 years ago. Last year's budget, it's quite a funny document, in fact, last year's budget. Last year's budget says, I am concretely launching the Marshall Plan against poverty. Concretely launching it. Where it is today, a year later, nowhere to be found except for what I tabled in this House, Madam Speaker. It has 32 recommendations. It deals not only with absolute poverty, it deals also with relative poverty. 133,000 people, my memory serves me, 120,000 people are concerned by the Marshall Plan against poverty. which was launched by government en grande fanfare, and we haven't seen a trace of it from the government side, at least since then. Not only have we not seen a trace of it, but of the 32, maybe 30 of these recommendations have not been applied, including giving a rent subsidy to the poor. So many things in that, valid points, paid for either by United Nations or by this government, costing a lot of money, and not applied, and not even published, disregarding public opinion, disregarding all the NGOs, no respect for the poor, not even publishing this, Madam Speaker. And also, Madam Speaker, we must do something about the very large families in the poor households. I keep talking about this because it's a big issue. Poverty is not only no training, this or the other. It is also because people, the poorer they are in Mauritius, the more children they have. We must get our family planning right. We must get the message right. Because when you put someone on this earth, you must be able to make sure that you can cater for him like a little prince, like a little princess, and give him the best chance to succeed. And if you are poor, you are out of work, you're not going to be able to do that for 4 or 5 children. You're just going to create problems for them in the future. And therefore, my plea to this government, Madam Speaker, is to look at this poverty alleviation properly. It's been left on the side. Marshall Plan, not published. Housing, nothing. All this, Madam Speaker. The negative income tax for 13 months' time that it will come. Madam Speaker, let's do this. Let's work together to get poverty alleviation and eradication of poverty. Let it not just be a word, a sentence that we say now and then, but it translates itself into actual fact. In fact, Madam Speaker, just to illustrate what I'm saying, the Social Progress Index, which is an index which is published, international index, which measures countries that provide for social and environmental needs of its citizens. Social Progress Index, it's in the budget page, we have fallen in the ranking from 34th in 2014 to 40th in 2016. So this illustrates what I'm saying, Madam Speaker. Let me come now quickly to employment and unemployment, and I'll add that, Madam Speaker, to the issue of higher education. Because education, it can have a very long lead time, or it can have a shorter lead time. Take an example. If you are going to take care of children who are in kindergarten today, and you should do that, it's in 25 years that you'll see the effect on the economy and the effect on the country, because it takes that long for us to train them. Why was I concerned, Madam Speaker, with higher education? Because higher education is one area where the lead time is shortest. You're talking about 3 years, sometimes even 2 now, to form a degree holder. 2 years, 3 years. So if we are really invested, and we are not, and it is very disappointing, if we are really invested in higher education in the next 3 years, we would have seen thousands of bright, young, able, motivated, innovating people coming onto the workforce. And if you look at the dismal situation of the higher education, we're used to being first in Africa, almost everywhere, no? It's even sometimes it becomes boring because we're always first. Not in higher education, we are not first. Our top university, I've said this, I'll say it again, top university, University of Mauritius, 51st in Africa. There are 54 countries in Africa, Madam Speaker. 51st, our top university. University of Mascareignes, thank you. The pit latrine and all that has been changed, I think. The University of Mascareignes, not the Mascareignes, University of Technology, sorry. UTM, 229th in Africa. I think it's 7,000 worldwide. The ranking. University of Mascareignes, the third, the worst, ranking-wise, of our universities. 340th. And not a word in this budget. There are 54 countries in Africa. So a simple average, you said each country in Africa probably has 3 universities, better than Université de Mascarin. This is the situation. Facts. What is in the budget here? To upgrade the level of teaching, to upgrade the level of research in universities. Nothing. Nothing. Some infrastructure is going to be changed. At this, all you need is concrete to become a bright young employee in 3 years' time. So that is wrong. We ought to have invested massively if we wanted a quick return in tertiary education, and even more massively if we wanted a long-term, stable, happy, and rich country in the whole stream of education from pre-primary right down to secondary, Madam Speaker. I talked about the net jobs of 300, but if you look at these same figures published by Statistics Mauritius, this time on graduate chômeurs. And you know, these people have spent money, they have spent time to become graduate. And what can you say about graduate chômeurs? According to Statistics Mauritius, in 2012, 9,600 graduate chômeurs. And the year after reduces, 2 years after it reduces, and it is in fact 7,800 in 2014. So there was a fall in graduate chômeurs, according to Statistics Mauritius official figures. What happens then? In 2015, Honorable Minister of Education may be interested to learn. 2015, graduate chômeurs shoot up to 9,000 from 7,800, shoot up. And again, shoot up again in 2016 to 10,000. So we have in fact reversed what we have managed to do. We have reversed the trend of the falling graduate chômeurs to an increasing trend. And we will tap l'estomac. Oh, we've done so well. These are the figures, Madam Speaker. What is going wrong? Massive investment, as I mentioned. Career guidance. I don't think we've done anything. Nothing in this budget, I think, on career guidance to be able to advise the students where and what sphere is necessary. I had launched at the time, I remember, it was called the 6-monthly employment trend survey. That was cancelled afterwards, but at least I was giving a document to government about how to advise students at what to study. So, and of course, the graduate training employment scheme, which was announced, I think, last year or year before, big flop. Out of the 10,000 graduate chômeurs, only 300 took this up. So we want a win-win-win situation, Madam Speaker. Massive investment in public universities, at least, helps the private universities. In 3 years' time, the education hub becomes a real education hub. In 3 years' time, or whatever time, the economy can benefit from thousands of people. So that is really win-win-win as far as that is concerned, Madam Speaker, and we need to have a dramatic upgrading of our career guidance service. Madam Speaker, let me speak about drugs. Now, and the police. Talk about the police first. And we had raised this issue before. The police, many of them, we keep recruiting every year. Probably in percentage, we're the country that recruits more policemen every year like this. But when you look at them, just go outside and look at them. They have the blue uniform, nice, no equipment. Some of them have a baton, that's it. When you look at a policeman overseas, be it Singapore, wherever you want, these people are equipped. Radios, federal streamers, batons, everything, handcuffs, everything that enables him to do what? Enables him when he sees a poor citizen being beaten up. When you see these videos, the police turn away. That is what they do. Why? It's not their fault. They have no equipment to defend themselves. They have no equipment to arrest. That is the big issue of the police. It's the equipment. The issue of police is not the numbers as much as the equipment. And we all know when we are given a job and we're not given the equipment to do that, then you have the police force that we have that tends to look away. By the way, our Commissioner of Police should take a leaf out of the book of Mr. Comey, I think, in terms of undue influence, but that is another issue. Now, Madam Speaker, equipment and training. When we went to Germany, at the request of government, we had a look at that. Germany, Madam Speaker, a policeman, simple constable, will undergo 3 years of formal training. 3 years of formal training, like a university graduate, in fact, before he becomes a simple constable on the beat. In Mauritius, 9 months, and you have a police constable. 9 months. Are we that much more clever than the Germans that we can learn in 9 months that what the German constable takes 3 years to learn? Or is it the truth that our policemen are far less trained, far less fit, and far less versatile than policemen should be? Because in Germany, they take everything, even DNA samples, even fingerprints. You don't have to call. They will take it all themselves because they're fully equipped. They're van, and in their mind, they're properly trained for this job. Madam Speaker, let's talk about drugs. There have been a lot of seizures, good enough. But that is also evidence of the scale of the drug problem. And I must say that the Commission of Inquiry seems to be, I haven't seen the report, obviously, I haven't given a report yet, but let's see what comes up. But on drugs, I don't think any one of us realized the extent, the amount of drug traffickers that were in Mauritius. Still are. But I look at it on the other hand, okay? What is the result of all this? You would expect, Madam Speaker, if potatoes were in short supply, the price of potatoes will go up, or pomme d'amour, whatever. So let's look at it the other way. Let's see what is the effect. And this is a serious point. I know I'm going to get a lot of stupid comments, but I'll make it anyway because it's the public interest. It's a serious point. Look at the drug situation. If you don't believe me, there's an article written in Economist. It's called Economist of 20th May. Have a look at it. It's entitled The Expanding Universe of Synthetic Drugs. I think we need to look at that article. And, Madam Speaker, so when you look at on the street, what has happened? What is happening apparently? Heroin, same price as before, no increase. Ganja, same price as before, no increase. But synthetic drugs, and this is my point I'm going to make. Synthetic drugs, the price has fallen by half. Perhaps Mr. Manto can check with the Commissioner of Police. This is the situation. Synthetic drugs has fallen by half. And so look at this, and I also congratulate Honorable Ganu, who has launched a debate on this issue, because it's much, much more complicated than we can think of. And it needs to be dealt with intelligently if we are going to get some result. Because if you read that article, it will tell you that if you want to import maybe 1,000, something to make 1,000 doses of synthetic drugs, all you maybe need is a small envelope, because it is that powerful, the initial ingredient. So unless we can find out whether we can stop it, or whether we have other means of dealing with the drug problem, like so many other countries are. And this is, in Mauritius, I live in Grand Gobe. I don't want to, in fact, I don't want to talk about Grand Gobe. Many places we live in, many places in Mauritius, the drug issue has poisoned society, has poisoned the neighborhood. And this has to be dealt with, and it has to be dealt with, maybe apolitically, okay, but it has to be dealt with. And we need to show the good faith about it and deal with it, please, intelligently, not stupidly. That is my issue on the drug, Madam. I come to my old sector, tourism. Tourism, Madam Speaker. Okay, 6.5%, 6.4% growth first 5 months. It's good, much less than last year. Last year was 9.9%. So, I mean, you know, if you want to give marks, not bad, but can do better. If I was a teacher, I would say can do better. Can do better. obviously it's already feeding my departure from that ministry. But still, it's not bad. It's not bad. We did 9.9% first 5 months of 2016, only 6.4% this year. Maybe Maurice n'est plus un plaisir, we don't know. But that's something else that we can talk also. So, Madam Speaker, on tourism, I have no worries in the short term. I have no worries in the short term. I think the momentum is there, the message is there, the skills of the MTPA, if nothing is changed, the skills are there at the tourism authority. That can be improved, but I have no particular worries about the next few years. But I am very worried about the industry for various reasons. One, the projects coming up. Mauritius has suffered enormously, the tourism sector. Ces projets bidons, which are promoted by petits copains, family and what you have. Mauritius, and the problem is not because they're petits copains or their family, whatever, it's because these people have no experience in tourism. And so they are given huge amounts of land. Then they go and beg and steal and sell whatever they do to construct the hotels. And inevitably, like anything, if you want to be a boulanger, or you want to be an accountant, or you want to be whatever, you have to have the experience and the training. And these people don't have. They don't have anything. And they will build you anything, concrete block, one project. Honorable Suda's not there. One project, Madam Speaker, ex-Midas. You know how many rooms they wanted to construct? I'm going to appeal to my colleague, ex-colleague. They wanted to construct 500 and something rooms. Can you imagine? 500 rooms in the south of the island? What would happen to these 500 rooms? These people have no experience, nothing to show. A lady, I don't remember her name, no experience, nothing. I didn't give any permit. But it's two sides, the hotel development. Two sides. Minister of Land that gives the permit. Minister of Tourism gives the operation permit. And, Madam Speaker, we cannot jeopardize our tourism sector by having the neophyte, people who don't know anything about tourism, haven't made n'ont pas fait leur preuve, come up and build hotels at 500 rooms in the south. And what will happen then? What will happen then? And that is what I'm asking. This is the interest of Mauritius. Yes, we have hotel development. We are lucky to have had some of the best hotels in the world in this country from the past. We've had some terrible hotels also, resulting from the stupid policy of giving to friends and all that. And let's hope, therefore, another appeal to government that we put an immediate stop to these stupid projects. And we go from now on, genuine projects, you show me what you know, what you have done before, where is your money, and then you get the land, Madam Speaker. Another issue, Madam Speaker, that threatens our tourism industry is beach erosion. Hardly any mention. Beach rehabilitation, I think, is mentioned in the budget speech. Beach erosion, I think, in the strategy document. But quelle est la menace pour le tourisme ici? What is the threat for tourism in Mauritius? What is the real threat? The threat, Madam Speaker, is that our beaches will disappear. That they are disappearing at an alarming rate. I don't know. I'm only 59, but I remember Tour Beach was 3 times what it is today. And most of the other beaches in Mauritius. What will happen in 20 years' time? Well, are we going to have a hotel industry, a beach hotel industry in 20 years' time if we don't... Again, the Minister of Environment should take this seriously. Take it seriously, because there's hardly any money. Now, you will see, there's hardly any money in the budget. And what we need is massive rehabilitation of the beaches, Madam Speaker. And I'll speak quickly in a moment to environment, but I'll speak about the port. According to the Minister of Finance, or Prime Minister, paragraph 174, the port, I'm quoting, is making good progress. I think he hasn't been given the information that he has to be, or to have been given, because the port is not making good progress. And government is out of touch, because since I left, the port has been subjected to constant interference by politicians, advisors, you name it. There's now a breakdown of discipline in the port. and a laisser-aller général. I'm saying that, but can I back it up? Yes, I can back it up, Madam Speaker. Yes, I can back it up. Because productivity, moves per hour, per crane, that is how you calculate port productivity, used to be 23, Madam Speaker. Reduced a little bit because we were making a lot of investment in the port, and that disrupted the work to maybe 21. May, all the work is being done. May 2017, port productivity is now 17 moves per hour. And the port is supposed to be making good progress. This is a joke. This is a joke. 17 moves per hour compared to 23 before, Madam Speaker. And this is despite the installation at enormous cost of something called a Navis 4 computerized system, which ought to have increased productivity by 40%. Instead, Madam Speaker, productivity has fallen. I'm sad that Mr. Dosami has been forced to leave. He was a tough disciplinarian. Mr. Mento may have appreciated that. Tough disciplinarian, and that is what you need. You need to pay people well in the port. I am very happy that you get even more pay. But the work must be done, Madam Speaker. And it is not making good progress. Madam Speaker, on the environment, sea level is rising. There's a real danger to our economy and for our quality of life. There's safety considerations along the coast. We have coral bleaching. We have problems with flash floods. We have food security problems. Everyone knows that Mauritius is classified as the 7th most vulnerable country in the world to climate change. The 7th most vulnerable country in the world to climate change. I'd like to bring that to the attention of the Minister of Environment. 7 most. However, in global terms, we contribute only a minuscule amount to global warming. Only a minuscule amount, 0.01%. That is how much Mauritius contributes to global warming. Minuscule amount. So where should the bulk of our money go? Because if tomorrow Mauritius were to disappear from the map, or Mauritius will be 100% no carbon dioxide, global warming will still continue because we have such a small contribution. Global warming will still go up if we stop completely. But, Madam Speaker, if you look at the budget, you have a feeling that the money has gone to mitigation, that is, trying to stop global warming, as if Mauritius could do that, and not adaptation, which is adapting to what will happen anyway, whatever else we do. And this is, Madam Speaker, my comment on environment. Adaptation is what we need most. Mitigation, yes, is good for our public relations, but it is not that will save Mauritius. It is not that. It is adaptation, especially now that Mr. Trump has decided to go his way as far as the Paris Accord is concerned, Madam Speaker, and God knows what effect that will have. We are the 7th most vulnerable country, and we must protect ourselves from global warming, and we are not protecting ourselves. What we should do? Obviously, we have to look at it's easier said than done, I agree. But we must look at coral bleaching, we must look at food security, we are doing something at drains, we're not investing enough in our disaster management system, and the vehicles and the equipment that is required to protect our population, Madam Speaker. And I think we must do all that. And I mentioned just now beach erosion. I think these must be our priority areas. Madam Speaker, I hope that the Doppler radar, which I put 400 million rupees of Mauritian money in that Doppler radar, I hope that it comes up, Madam Speaker. Which takes me also to good governance. Because here there's one, and it's also related to energy and environment. There's one area which I am troubled. I am deeply worried is about good governance, and especially good governance at the CEB. I note here that there's nothing in this, the Honorable Bhagwan mentioned it, nothing here in this budget on good governance. Nevertheless, let's look at the CEB, Madam Speaker, and I'll take a little bit, not too long, of time on the CEB, because it's very important. CEB, Madam Speaker, we all know this debate last year. The Honorable Deputy Prime Minister told us that CEB is an exempt institution, forgetting to tell us what it is exempt for. It's an exempt institution, and therefore the free subsidiaries would also naturally be exempt. No Java, will remember. We're an exempt institution. Forgetting to tell us, Madam Speaker, that CEB is not an exempt institution as you and I would understand that phrase. It is an exempt institution like STC, etc., only where it is dealing with trade, where it is buying electricity and selling electricity. And this is why all the IPPs, etc., they don't come up for tender. Because you're buying electricity for an IPP, you're selling it to the poor consumer. And you don't come up for tender. But for everything else, CEB is not an exempt institution. CEB falls squarely under the Public Procurement Act. Any contract that CEB gives over 100 million rupees is not even dealt with by the CEB. It is dealt with by the CPB, Central Procurement Board. So how can we, in one letter be said, in one line, be told CEB is an exempt institution, therefore the others should be? Because the others, Madam Speaker, what are they exempt for? And I'm going to read a copy of Clause 6 of the famous Finance Act. What does it say? The board, with the approval of the... What is the... make it shorter. A company set up under subsection 2 shall be an exempt organization within the meaning of Public Procurement Act. And what is it subsection 2 says? It says implementation of projects. It's not buying and selling electricity anymore here. Implementation of all projects that these companies do. CEB bought turbines some time ago. I was on the select committee to look at whether or not they had been cheating because it was a tender procedure. CEB follows tenders over 100 million rupees. Even less, but without the CPB. So implementation of projects, use of its network, implementation as such of the projects, wide one, as the board may determine. These, Madam Speaker, these companies are exempt for these, which is not what the CEB is exempt for. Completely different, Madam Speaker, and I will continue. Huh? He goes on to say, in a reply that Honorable Davelu gave, no, in a statement that he gave, he says, every exempt organization shall establish its own procurement rules in relation to such types of contracts as may be prescribed. I looked at the regulations. There have been no rules prescribed for these companies. So, fell encore, Madam Speaker. We haven't finished, Madam Speaker. Unfortunately, I wish I had. Because, Madam Speaker, in a reply again, this time it was on CB FiberNet, the Honorable Colin Davelu, this is what he said. Where is it? This is what he said. And this is why I'm very worried about the CB. He says this in reply to a question. The leader of the opposition might save us from his free articles. I repeat that. No. The leader of the opposition might save us from his free articles. The company, this is dealing with FiberNet, has passed a resolution to the effect that they are adopting the procurement rules already existing in the CEB. Firstly, Madam Speaker, as we know, over 100 million rupees, CEB doesn't deal with procurement. It goes to CPB. So what happens with FiberNet? It's giving contracts, hundreds of millions of rupees. That's not CEB procurement rules. What rules is that? Huh? Jungle rules, Madam Speaker. Jungle rules. And we know, maybe the Honourable Prime Minister may be interested to know, maybe didn't know. Let's say, CEB Green Energy is mentioned in the budget. What are the procurement rules of CEB Energy? This is the board minute, and I will table this board minute, Madam Speaker, for you, because it's so important. It's a board minute. CEB Green Energy, and shame, Madam Speaker. This is what the board minute says. The board, under any other business, not even a board paper, this is under any other business. The board also resolved that the company, this is CEB Green, will follow the same procedures as far as possible as that in operation in the CEB, Madam Speaker. As far as possible. I will be honest as far as possible. I will not beat my wife as far as possible. When you put as far as possible in a sentence, it means that it's up to you whether you want to follow And I will give you, Honorable Konandavulu, a copy of this board minute. You know it. Then you know that as far as possible, you are giving us complete information. And I will table that, Madam Speaker, and you can read that. So, Madam Speaker, I will finish before lunch to say that for the Metro Express, there is something that has confused me even more with this budget. For the Metro Express, we are told that it's 26 kilometers will cost something like 17 billion rupees, I think. But then, when you look at this is a 3-year strategic plan, section 3.8, it says, ring, rail and road. Government will invest massively in land transport, including 13 kilometers of new commuter rail over the next 3 years. 13, not 26 anymore. We put 20 million in the budget, 17 million over the next 3 years, and here it says 13 kilometers. So this is going to put water, wind in the sail of everyone saying that we are being misled in terms of what is the cost of the metrology. Is it going to be 17 billion for 13 kilometers? So what about the other 13 kilometers that Honorable Mr. Public Infrastructure was saying? So I think this is more confusing than anything else, and we need to clear this, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the CEB has billions of reserves. I'm going to try and finish quickly. Has billions of reserves. We should not squander these funds. We should not squander the funds. We should be careful. If we want to increase employment, if we want to reboot manufacturing industry, which the economic vision had mentioned, which hasn't happened. In fact, it is being destroyed day by day. If we want to do that, the cost of energy is crucial for industry. And I think we need not to squander the billions that CEB has in reserve and use that intelligently to reboot our manufacturing industry. And this will create the employment that we also need, Madam Speaker. As far as public debt is concerned, this is the first time since 2010 that public debt has gone over 60%. Over, year before also. Since 2014, we've gone over 60%, and never before since 2010 that has happened. And when we put in Betamax, when we put in the Indian loan, it will come, Madam Speaker, to, I think I will have to take a little bit more time at the start again, because I'm not going to finish. Otherwise, I'm going to make a pig's dinner at the end of this speech. But, Madam Speaker, public debt has increased from 237 billion rupees in December 2014. We've talked about the percentages. I'm going to give you this time the actual numbers. That is 188,000 rupees per person in Mauritius. That was in December 2014. Now, Madam Speaker, it is 233,000 per person. Huge increase, Madam Speaker, of 58 billion rupees in public debt since 2014. That is a huge increase. And as I mentioned, Madam Speaker, before 2014, it was always below 60%. I'm going to talk rapidly about this US dollar loan because that is an important issue. And my conscience will not allow me not to speak about it. I will speak about it, Madam Speaker. Because there's a reason why Honorable Lakshmana Raidu, in front of me, refused the first Indian line of credit. There was a reason why I, myself, as Minister of Finance, I turned down, in the previous government, the line of credit. Anywhere from, wherever it was. I'll tell you something, Madam Speaker. Mauritius, and this says so in the last budget, Mauritius has never had any problem to raise loans. When I took over as Minister of Finance, Honorable Ramasitanen, with the economic downturn being predicted, had contracted a loan, if my memory serves me right, of $800 million. 800 million US dollars at concessionary rate from the World Bank. 800 million multiplied by 40 or something, you see how much. So Rodna can help us out here. But it's a huge amount. Huge amounts. 32 billion rupees. 32 billion rupees, Madam Speaker. That was what had been contracted by Honorable Ramastane. I didn't take a cent of it. Not a cent of it. Although we had already paid the commitment fee. I didn't take a cent of it. So there's a reason why you don't take foreign loans. In fact, last year's budget in the debt strategy states clearly the objective of government is to reduce foreign loans, especially loans in dollars. Because believe it or not, Madam Speaker, I hope you will believe me, the American economy, US economy, is far stronger than the Mauritian economy. So what will happen? You don't have to be an economist to understand that annually, the dollar will keep increasing against the rupee. And if you look at the last 20 years, it's been increasing to just below 3% per year. So when you repay, even the interest, you are paying even more as years go by. And that is why the Honorable Minister of Finance last year, beginning of this year, repaid, early repayment. The money was already in the coffers. Repaid 4.2 billion. Okay, the rates may have been different, but the principle is the same. Why is a foreign loan, wherever it's from, not good? Firstly, because of the appreciation of that currency, especially in dollars. In euros and all that, you have a better chance. Secondly, the interest rate is 1.8%. But that is not all that you pay. You pay the interest rate plus the appreciation, as I mentioned, about 3% annually in the value of the dollar. And there's another thing which is a bit complicated to explain, but I'll try to explain, Madam Speaker, is the excess liquidity. If you look at the accounts of the Bank of Mauritius last year, you will see that the Bank of Mauritius spent 1.4 billion rupees of our money, you and me and everyone, 1.4 billion rupees in what it calls open market operations. That is basically sterilization. Because when you have too much money in the economy, what the Bank of Mauritius does is it borrows that money. Billions of it. There's 14 billion rupees of excess liquidity. It borrows billions of it. But you will not lend your money to the Bank of Mauritius for nothing, will you? You will ask for interest. So the Bank of Mauritius will pay you interest for that money, 3%, let's say. So it takes the money and then it keeps it in the vault. That's why they have a vault. They have a lot of soldiers guarding that vault. Because they have the money. They are keeping that money. Huge amount of money that is being sterilized, billions of rupees that is kept in the Bank of Mauritius. And the cost is 1.4 billion last year. This transaction, when you add it to the closure of the Bill Mauritius Fund and that money coming in, when you add it to the bit of the in fact, not all of this transaction, even a little bit that is in fact predicted or estimated for this year, if you add all this together, Madam Speaker, it will increase excess liquidity by what the economists calculate as being 15 billion rupees. If there's 14 billion now, it will double the excess liquidity in Mauritius. And it will double the cost of sterilization, which I calculate to about 500 million rupees. So all this, appreciation, interest rate, sterilization, all this must come into the calculation of where it is good or bad to take a loan. And that is why it is not at all a good idea to borrow in dollars especially, but to borrow overseas, because you could have used the excess liquidity at the end. That money that is lying in the Bank of Mauritius could have been used. We are paying interest anyway on it. And so long as it is buying for exports, the money would have gone out of our country. And we would have won. Instead, now we lose, and that is the real problem, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, on the Metro Express, I will come back to it during the course of the next few days. It's so much opacity, so much that we don't know about, that the honourable member has said that he will resign. He's about to resign, Madam Speaker. We don't know at all how much it is. We don't know about the environment impact. We don't know anything. Madam Speaker, I mentioned about financial services. I'm not going to talk about it again, just to say that there are 20,000 people working in financial services in Mauritius, and it is crucial that we reinvent this whole sector. Madam Speaker, rapidly. Can you give me another 10 minutes? I'll finish? Okay, thank you. Madam Speaker, exports and SMEs. Vision 2030 has said, we need to look at manufacturing. This is going to be the driving force. There's been a dramatic fall. The first quarter of this year, 11% fall in exports compared to first quarter of 2016. 11%, Madam Speaker. How important is tax reduction? Are we going back now to old days when tax was high and everybody was looking for these 8-year development certificates, 8-year tax-free certificates? These days, with 15% tax, any investment you make, I have so many accountants on the other side, not on this side, on the other side. And, Madam Speaker, you invest, you get capital allowances. Sometimes you get more capital allowances than you have actually invested. That will take you many years. A hotel should be years before a hotel pays it. Just take an example, pays tax. But here we are giving these investment certificates. We are complicating the issue. We are complicating our promotional efforts. What Honorable Sitanen had done at the time, and I followed him in that, was simplification. Simplify, get rid of all these certificates. Just complicates the issue. Nobody understands anymore what is happening. You do this, you get 8 years. You do that, you get... This is not what we want. We want a simple, understandable taxation system. And we are complicating every year. And Honorable Virasamy Ringadu, at his time, he was giving development certificates. I thought that was no longer happening, Madam Speaker. So I nearly fell off my chair when I heard that we are going to give now an agricultural processing development certificate. I thought that was one word that had gone out of fashion. This is not what incentives is all about. I think it is misguided to try to offer little bits like that. What we need for exportation is difficult. What is our real problem? Where is our market? Our market is Africa. Where is our real problem? Our problem is sending goods to Africa. Not so much services, sending goods to Africa. We have one problem with our rules of origin. Very, very, very difficult to meet the rules of origin so that our goods enter COMESA and SADC duty-free. Because that is what we used to be selling everywhere. Come to Mauritius and you export duty-free to Africa. Minister of Industry, I'm sure will know. It is very difficult to meet this 35%. And we need the diplomatic effort. We had started, I remember, I had started it myself, to try and get the 35% lower, 30%, 25%. Then you will see a huge increase in inter-Africa, intra-SADC, inter-COMESA trade. Otherwise, forget it. Forget it. That's why the Freeport and all that, exporting mobile phones. That's about it. What about maintenant? But then we have the regional shipping company, which was promised. Get that done. Nothing. Where is the regional shipping company? Please tell us what happened to the regional shipping company. I think the freight that I started, that is working well. But what else are we going to do? We need desperately the better connectivity that will help every single hub in Mauritius, and it's not sufficient what is being done with Maputo and Dar es Salaam. It really is not sufficient. And we need to do that, Madam Speaker. And so, for me, we need to make sure that we have partner countries that work with us to reduce the issues at importation, to reduce the issues at passing customs in their country, to reduce the rules of origin issues, and that is when we will see the boost in exportation. Madam Speaker, les mots de la fin. I think this budget creates a real expectation gap, a budget exercise with too many, unfortunately, false promises, insufficient attention to the most important sectors. I think everybody outside saying the same thing. The vision is not clear. The youth are more lost than ever. And especially, Madam Speaker, we have nothing to take us to the high income status that we are saying. I think if you want to be high income status by 2023, we need 5% growth, and we are nothing here to show that, Madam Speaker. And also realization of what we have promised. If you look at the capital expenditure spent in this budget, it is 6.7 billion rupees. This budget, last year, we spent 6.7 in something called acquisition of non-financial assets. That is capital expenditure. 6.7. Apart from last year, Madam Speaker, it is far lower than usual. I'll give you a figure, Madam Speaker. In 2013, on capital expenditure, it was 11.2 billion. So you can see the expectation gap, promising a lot and delivering very little. So therefore, Madam Speaker, I'm going to end up by saying this. I understand that Mr. Modi has advised the Prime Minister to have snap elections as soon as possible. In the interest of the nation, I would beg the Minister to have these snap elections so that we can change this government. Thank you, Madam.
I suspend the sitting for 1.5 hours.